What's going on, family? You ever notice how kids can walk into danger without even realizing it? It's like 1 minute they're laughing, running around, just exploring their environment. The next minute, they're headed towards something super, super risky, and you know they're going to get hurt. And one thing about it, that's why fathers matter so much. It's not just the discipline we provide, it's not just providing, but that protection part is very crucial early on in their life. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the importance of fathers protecting their children, how to recognize danger, how kids can recognize danger, how they can protect themselves, how they can trust their instincts and stay away from a world of different people that may not have their best interest in heart. Because protecting your kids doesn't always start in an emergency. Sometimes, hey, it starts with a simple conversation. It's help them be aware of what's out there. We're going to talk about how to teach safety without raising fear for kids, how open communication builds trust, and why fathers have a major role in helping children navigate the world wisely. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Life and Fatherhood. I am your host, Alonzo Williams. And around here, we talk about fatherhood, family, health, self-development, and of course, finances. And this is what it really looks like to lead your family in today's world. This is a place where we talk about perfection, but this is a place where we focus on growth. And today's episode is one I think every father needs to hear. Because in a world where distractions are everywhere and danger can show up fast, fathers can't afford to be passive when it comes to protecting their children. Today we're going to talk about practical protection. Not fear-based parenting, not helicopter parenting, but intentional fatherhood where we teach our kids how to be aware, how to communicate, and how to maneuver around and through danger confidently. Let's get into it. You know, there's something about becoming a father that really does shape how you see the rest of the world. Like growing up and you live your own life, you think back to how your own parents really tried their best to make you aware of the dangers that this world has to offer. Now, of course, our parents did that from a place of love, but if we're being honest, their methods might have been a little scary, a mix between a little scary or just a little weird overall. But the intention was there and the message was clear as well. At the end of the day, not everyone is your friend. Not everyone has your best interest at heart. And you need to be aware of that so you can keep yourself safe and the people around you safe, which ultimately keeps your community safe. So today we're going to go into how we as fathers can prepare our children to enter into this world with so many potential dangers without them growing up being afraid of every single little thing. All right, so one thing that I like to do, or something that I've done with my own children, especially my oldest. So if you're new here, I do have a 4-year-old son and a 2-year-old son. Now, one thing about my children is that they are very lively. They love life. They love to play. They are very much full of life in every sense of the word. With that, they're also very friendly. Now, I won't say that they trust everybody that they come across, but they are more likely to speak to people. They are not shy to speak to people. They're not shy to shake anybody's hand, which I do love, and I want to continue to have that and foster that. But something that we've recently started to do, my wife and I, especially with our oldest son, since he is getting to the point where he can really understand the message that we try to teach him, and just the importance of understanding that there are people out here that do not, or just simply aren't as friendly as he is. So of course, we always try to be careful with our words, making sure that we get the point across without, having them be confused or, like I said, imparting fear into them, because we don't want them to be scared. So One example of this is, you know, we go to our local YMCA, and of course, a lot of people in the YMCA, you come across many different people, older, young adults, other kids. And so we really have to explain to our oldest, like, hey, I know that you know this person and they know you, but that doesn't mean that you can ultimately hang out with them like you hang out with mommy and daddy. All right, because in our kids' eyes, they can tell the difference between a child and an adult, of course. But a lot of times, the way that they relate to us and their grandparents, they try to relate to that with other adults. So really, just having them understand, like, hey, this person is kind, they're very nice, but you don't know them well enough to be that vulnerable with them. Okay, so what we can do, and here's some practical tips that you can use to with your own kids, is just explaining to them what it means for them to be safe. All right. So start off by talking about the feeling of safe. A perfect example is how they feel with you. Obviously they love you, they around you, they always want to climb on you. Kids love to climb on their dads. They love to lay up under you, hang out with you. So it's that feeling of safety, feeling of letting that guard down. All right. And so also having them recognize what it might feel to be unsafe. So an example of that is when they are with somebody who is a complete stranger that they don't know, and you can kind of see the look on your kid's face where it's like, okay, I don't know this person. I don't really want to, I'm not afraid of them, but I don't want to stick around with just them for too long. So acknowledging that feeling, like, even though you weren't afraid, you didn't necessarily feel safe because you didn't know that person. You weren't comfortable with that person. All right. Another thing that you can do is talk about how they can protect their safety. All right. How do kids protect their safety? Number one, speaking up. All right. So they can let it be known, hey, I don't feel safe. I don't feel okay in this space. I don't feel okay with this person. Having them be confident, speaking up that they don't feel safe around certain people. That's very powerful. All right. Another thing that I encourage you to practice, of course, this is for when your kids do get older, but even role play, you know, institute, putting in a role play scenario where you pretend you're a stranger and you try to, um, lure a child or whatever, and really coaching your child on how they should address that. You know, I'm sure many of you have seen this in different ways where somebody will act like, "Hey, do you want to come get in, this van? I got candy," and the kid say, "No, I'm fine. I don't know you." And then the kid goes off and say, "Hey, stranger danger," things like that. Role play goes a great way. All right, it goes very, very far. So I encourage you to, of course, once your kids are older and they're able to understand what it is that you're saying, role play can be very, very, very powerful. All right. All right. And so, of course, the goal in all of this isn't to make them like fearful, but just to get them prepared. All right. The next thing you want to do in regards to safety, of course, isn't just make sure that your child knows how to keep themselves safe, but know how to keep their peers safe, know how to keep other people around them safe. Because, God forbid, your child will be in a situation to where they might have to speak up for their friend if their friend isn't able to speak up for themselves. You know, let's just say, hypothetical, a child watches their friend go into a house of a stranger that nobody knows, right? Nobody knows this stranger. Somehow they convince this child's friend to go in. It's very, very important for that child to say, hey, either going to call out to their friend and say, hey, come with us, like, or hey, who is that? Or go get an adult. But recognizing danger, recognizing those signs and those cues for our kids to protect themselves and their friends and their loved ones. Ultimately, the goal is not just to keep our kids safe, but make our community safe. And that starts with us and, of course, passing that down to our children. All right, last but not least, the biggest thing that we're going to want to do as fathers is stay informed. This one is very, 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 very crucial. So Currently, it is May 2026. As we're speaking, there has been a uptick in black kids going missing. Like the age range, it varies, of course, but overall, it's been very disproportionate. The amount of black boys and black girls that have gone missing. I think that's very, very, very important for any community to acknowledge that and pay attention to that. Because, for example, I live in Georgia. Now, this is very important because Georgia, specifically in the Atlanta area, but Georgia as a whole, sex trafficking is a very, very high point topic. There are a lot of trafficking cases that happen in and around Georgia. And so being informed on these children that are missing and that have been missing for a long time is very, very important to notice that, keep that in mind, and also recognize maybe even certain patterns. Um, I know recently in DC and Virginia, there have been a huge uptick. Like I forget the the number, but there are a lot of kids ranging from like 15 to 17 just gone missing in the span of like a couple months. So being informed, being up to date, not being in the dark about what's going on in your community will go a long ways in protecting not just your kids, not just their friends, but our community as a whole. So I hope this episode blesses you. I hope that you are willing to take the practical steps from this and apply it to your family, apply it to your children, showing them, hey, you know, the world isn't as safe as our house. Like everything is safe in our house. You know, dad is here, mom is here. We're able to get you before you run into the wall or get you before you jump off that, you know, that couch or whatever. But in the real world, there are people that aren't as friendly and that aren't as kind. And so it's important to acknowledge that and be on the lookout for that. All right. So with that being said, hope this episode has blessed you. If you love this content and want to venture into all of our other blogs and articles, as well as download our Dad's Daily Drive, you can go to navigatingpostpartumwellness.com and check out our Life and Fatherhood section. Get more content and join a community of men who are looking to grow together. Hope you all are doing well. Take care and be blessed.